Some people have a knack for making friends, others for making bodies disappear. This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi.
Wayne County Prosecutor's Office announced this last week that the mother whose son was 16 years old at the time of a car crash will not be charged in connection to the November 2023 crash. Now, why would mom be charged for a crash that she was not at or did not know about at the time? Well, here it is. Kiernan Tague, who was 16 at the time of the crash, charged in March with second-degree murder for the November 13th, 2023 crash that claimed the life of this 18-year-old friend of his, Flynn Mackrell. Police say Tague was driving over 100 miles per hour on a residential street in Grosse Pointe Farms where the speed limit was 25 miles per hour when he lost control and struck a utility pole and a tree. Mackrell's mother, Ann Vanker, requested the teen's driver mother be charged, citing the case of convicted Oxford High School shooter Ethan Crumbley and his parents, who were the first parents in the United States history to be held responsible for a school shooting committed by their child. But Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy said that on December 10th, that a panel of assistant prosecutors determined the mother was not directly or indirectly involved in any way in the offenses for which we have charged her son. How? Why? Why would she be involved? Here, quote, parenting is hard in the best of circumstances, Worthy said in a statement. Most parents do everything they can to mentor their children and steer them in the right direction. The juvenile's respondent's mother was no different. She took consistent, active steps to try to make sure that he stayed on the right path. There will be those that say she could have done more. But we have looked at all the facts, and those facts dictate no criminal charges here, Worthy said. We will not be more specific about her actions because her son will be facing trial in February. He was not directly or indirectly involved in any way in the offenses for which we have charged her son. Despite his mother's attempts, it is our firm position that the respondent is only directly responsible for the crimes that we have adult designated and charged him with. Mackrell's mother, Ann Vanker, told the news that she thought there was enough evidence to prove the driver's mother knew he was reckless because of a Grosse Pointe Farms police report showing that the woman had monitored her son's driving habits via the Life 360 app. It allows parents to view their kids' driving speed, hard braking, and other activity. Mackrell's mother previously told the paper that she believed the teen's driver's parents could have done something to prevent the crash that killed their son. Mackrell's parents said he was picked up by the 16-year-old friend who was driving his mother's white 2021 BMW X3, like you give your 16-year-old to drive. They were going to surprise a friend in Grosse Pointe Farms. Afterward, the driver sped over 100 miles an hour while heading southwest on Ridge Road, officials said. That stretch of road is a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. He lost control of the SUV, struck the pole, went airborne, hit the tree. Witnesses said they reported that the SUV was moving at a very high rate of speed. Quote, the vehicle was traveling at such a high rate of speed that the engine, transmission, front axle, and the passenger compartment all separated from each other and scattered all over the roadway, the police report says. Vanker called the announcement a weak decision. The wounds never close. I'm very disappointed, Vanker said. When your child is skipping school or smoking pot, a parent maybe can't control that, but she knew her son was driving more than 100 miles an hour because of the Life 360 app. That was right in the police report. She didn't try to control his behavior as she provided him with a murder weapon, which was the car, knowing he was an aggressive driver. I know Kim Worthy does not or does the best she can, and her office gets a lot of cases, Vanker said. But this was a missed opportunity. So many kids are killed in car accidents every year, and parents keep giving them the keys to these cars, knowing how crazy they drive. This was a chance to hold parents accountable. Now my son is dead and my family is destroyed. Tague is not being charged as an adult, but an adult designated, meaning if convicted, a judge can sentence him as a juvenile or as an adult or blended sentence with an option of imposing an adult sentence if Tague is not rehabilitated. You look at the speeds here, the info from the app has him on various occasions literally going 148 miles an hour, 127, 102, 150, 155. Often these times are late at night in the dark. Accelerating 63 and a 30, 74 and a 25. I mean, it's certainly a pattern of reckless driving. To say that the mom should have known about this and intervened in some way that would have been effective, I think that's a stretch. I mean, I have the Life 360 app. Granted, I don't have a driver of that age right now, but I've been using it for years. I mean, it's more so to keep track of where my daughter's at.
Right.
You know, at school, if she's out with friends or wherever. I didn't even know this had that feature. And I have had kids that were of that age on that app that drove. I didn't know you could check their speed until this story. Maybe I should have been more vigilant. Should I have? I don't play with the app much. I know how to check where my kid is, and it shows if there's somebody if they're driving somewhere. I don't know that it shows you their miles per hour, like right on the map. It might. If it does, I don't usually. Maybe I probably have never had a reason to have an eyebrow raised about it, but I was unaware. It's nice to know now. If the mom did have knowledge of it, okay, should you? Yeah, I guess if you can prove that she knew that she was using that app and had been monitoring these kids' speed and had been addressing him about it, or hadn't been, but she had knowledge of it, I think that could certainly show some incompetence here, but it doesn't show criminal. This is going to ultimately be a civil suit, but
I could see that happening. Yeah,
I could see there could be civil liability, but you're going to have to prove that she had checked that app and knew that even existed, and it wasn't just one of those things of she had the Life 360 app, so she should have known. No. That's like saying any app on your phone that someone's randomly going to pick out. Tell me if it has this feature. Would you know? I mean, some things you just wouldn't. And I use that app. Probably it's one of the most used apps I have. And I didn't know that was a feature on it.
I think it's a great feature.
Yeah.
And like getting that information, and if she knew he was going 148 miles an hour on July the 3rd at 11:30 at night, like you should take action as a parent. I think that's when you're like, you know what? You don't get to drive mom's BMW. You're going to drive this old crapper
or you're not going to drive.
Apart. Yeah.
Period. If I saw my kid was driving at those speeds, I'm like, sorry, you're not driving anymore. Period. You're just not.
So I get why the other family, like this family, is devastated. And I saw pictures of the crash scene. It's horrific.
Yeah.
It was absolutely horrific. And I would be outraged if I was the family and this information was available to the mom and she never did anything about it. But like I said, you have to prove that the mom knew that she could use the app that way.
Available and aware are two different things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're aware, I do see some liability, but if you're not, and I can realistically believe maybe she's not, so I don't know that you really, I don't know. It's a tragedy. They're looking for somebody to blame. Clearly, the kid should be facing charges and is facing charges. I don't know that mom needs to face charges unless you can prove she knew about this. Maybe 20 years from now, when this is all just so much more normal and everybody is aware that this stuff is out there, that could be used as an argument. Yeah, I could see that. Right now, the way that these apps change and the way that they add features and all this shit, it's impossible to keep up with.
What do you think about him being charged possibly as a juvenile at 16?
I think that's bullshit. They should charge him as an adult.
I do too, because 13-year-olds are being charged as adults.
Yeah.
And he's adult enough to drive the car at 100 plus miles an hour in a 25 mile per hour zone.
Yeah.
And repeatedly drove very recklessly. And not that he ever was like, I'm going to get in a car wreck, because kids that age think they're invincible. But he was also putting everyone else who was on a sidewalk or on a bicycle or in another car at risk every time he drove like that.
Yeah.
And so that's not the actions of, a little kid.
No, it's,
I could see him being, I hope he's charged as an adult.
Yeah, I hope he is. I think we'll probably end up seeing something low in terms of the punishment, unfortunately. I think we'll probably see like 7 to 10 years. I would go for 20 to 30, I think, on something like this, at least. Because you destroyed lives, and you've destroyed your own, too. I'm okay with, if you're that stupid and you're doing that sort of shit, yeah, it's okay. That's the consequences of that.
Don't you think, too, that the court is kind of like, man, that is a can of worms.
It is, completely.
If you go after the mom, because every kid has to learn how to drive it. Now, I guess you don't have to, but most kids, it's kind of a rite of passage. You learn how to drive, and eventually you drive. Maybe if you're in an inner city, you don't need to drive like we do out here where we live. Yeah. You kind of have to have a car out here.
Yeah.
And so that's opening up a big old can of worms if you were to charge the mom.
It would set a precedent, and you would have to go back and look at so many cases and cases going forward. And again, it would just be very difficult to prove that. I mean, you'd have to put it into law. Honestly, you'd have to put into law, something about, as a parent from this age to this age, you have to monitor behavior in this sort of way, which I don't think you'd ever see go into law. You'd have to show really intent ignorance on this for it to really stand up. And again, that's going to be a hard one to show. I mean, unless, you can literally, and maybe they can, you're going to have to pay somebody to dissect that phone and then get to that company and then try to look at history of what was looked at what time. But then you're going to also have to show that she actually comprehended what she was looking at as well, too. So there's a lot to there's a lot of hurdles to go through here. Could she reasonably have looked at this shit and go, kids are being kids? Yeah, she very well could have. It's not the right attitude to have by any means, especially when you get that information. Hell, I never sped like that. I had friends who did that sort of shit, and it scared the shit out of me, and I hated it.
Me too.
But it's just kind of normal. It's not saying it's good, but nobody got tracked in the past on this. This isn't like this is new. If you're young and you have friends and you're out driving, yeah, it's every parent's nightmare to think that their friends are going to drive that way or their own kids drive that way, but they do. We've all been there. But if you have the knowledge now, hey, that's a new way to maybe make them not. And there's also ways on newer cars which you can lock speed limits and things like that, which is kind of cool. But that's certainly not the norm yet. So it's
that's an interesting one.
I think it's too convoluted to charge the mom. I'm going to guess there will be a civil suit though, but it'll be interesting to see if that really goes anywhere.
But I see why they wanted the mom charged. When you see that information that was provided by the app, they're like, she should have been aware her kid was driving like that.
Another caveat to it could be, because some insurers will give you, I think it is with this app. I could be wrong, but apps similar to this or having their own app that gives you this information will give you a discount on your car insurance. Because it's monitoring your driving and such. If you can show that there is some part of the agreement with the insurance company that as a parent, you will monitor your child's, speed limits through this app, that could be an argument that she was consciously aware of it.
Yeah, it's interesting and just tragic, because I understand why the family wanted her charged. I get it. They're suffering from such an extreme loss right now.
Well, yes. And my God, that mom too of the kid who did this is also going through hell. I mean, it's not like she's just instantly an evil person because her reckless son drove fast and ended up in death. Doesn't make her an evil human being unless she's there. Speed like hell, Johnny. Just weave around. I mean, I don't think that's this.
And she's going to lose her own kid.
Yeah.
He'll be in prison for quite a while, I'm going to guess.
It's already horrific. There are 2 mothers here who are going through hell. I don't know that the one mom, it's appropriate for her to go and get vengeance on the other mom. I think it feels like it's out of control emotions to me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're going to I get it to a certain extent, but it's not like the kid isn't being charged. It's not like, well, it's not his fault. No, he's going to pretty much his life is ruined as well. Granted, he's still alive, but it's not, nobody's just saying this doesn't matter and your kid's dead. Sorry. It is going through the system. So I don't know. It's an interesting.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. If it ever, and I could see this going through at some point, but I think it's down the line. That will be precedent setting, but I think it may happen as we're just more. These are more the norm of things that we look at and understand and use.
You're neck deep in a dark, twisted tale, and just as the tension peaks, bam, a commercial about some miracle diet pill breaks the spell. It's like finding a fly in your soup after the first bite. But here's the fix. True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. You get to enjoy your crime stories without the junk. Ad-free episodes, extended interviews that go beyond the surface, and early access to all the gruesome details. It's like swapping out a can of cheap beer for a glass of fine whiskey. So search for True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe and keep the darkness flowing uninterrupted.